the way I made that, it wasn't good to begin with. But then when I added the milk, I was like, let me check to see if this milk is any good. And it was like October 10th.
October 10th. What is it? 17?
We're on
The 17 right now.
Yeah.
How'd it taste like? Was it your first time being a barista?
You know what? I'm glad that I go to the professionals and I don't do it. I'll stick to my regular coffee at home that I make.
I think we're live now. Yeah. See if we could put the comment section's up. All right, cool. So we're live. Live from Madison Square Garden.
It's John Cena.
Oh shit. I'm gonna put it right here so I can see the comments so I could get people in the chat. All right. So just fix the mic a little bit towards you and you're good. All right. And we're live, 100 episodes.
Congrats, man, on the 100th episode of the Angel Chavez podcast.
Yeah, bro, it's 2.5 years. Probably a little more, like 2 years or whatever.
Okay. What would you say over the last few years that you've been doing this? 3 things. What have you learned from it? The thing that you valued like most learning from it. What's something that you didn't expect? And what's something you're looking forward to?
So what did I learn from it first? So first, I started because I just got to start. It started with an interview for Billy Dell. He hit me up because he was dropping the second album. He's like, hey, let me get a little interview to promote my album or whatever, because I was doing YouTube videos. Then I was like, let's just do it. I always wanted to do a podcast. I'm like, let's just do it as the first episode of the podcast. So we just did it at the couch right there, the trailers and shit. I didn't know what I expected. My goal was just to talk to as many people as I can, just to get different things. One thing that I did learn was the connections that you made with people, because I have so many people on the podcast where like you have the 1 hour conversation and then you become friends or you build a relationship. Like, I don't know, it could be business. It could be you get invited to events. You just connect with people because you're talking one-on-one without a phone. Like, and you don't really do that in today's day and age, you know, like maybe you'll have like a 10-minute conversation at a like, party or something. But even then people are like checking their phone and shit. Yeah. So here's like, it kind of puts you in a box and you just talk to that person. It could be about their music. It could be about their business. It could be about whatever they're promoting, or just a conversation with like a friend. And I don't know, like I didn't expect to create the connection with people. I really didn't know the way this was going to play out. Like I didn't know I was going to have a studio like this. At first, you know, trailer, then I would do like on the go podcasts. I mean, I did one at your house after Coachella, you know, outside the pool, like different. I've done so many different places. I did some outside of the city of Coachella. I did some right here outside the food park. I did it at the Indio Mall. I've done podcasts in Palm Desert, like at an office space, at this homie studio. Like I've done podcasts in so many different locations. And then, I don't know, it's been pretty cool.
So it sounds like you didn't expect to have the type of success and type of unexpected adventures, growth, it seems like, and encounters with the people that you have. Because what I heard also in the first part is you got to sit down and not only talk to people, but talk to them uninterrupted and feel like you can either really listen in on their business thoughts, on their music, on just like a conversation, like you said, as a friend. And you might have felt not only more present, but kind of like hosting the other person, and kind of the way you invite someone over, like a friend for dinner. You know, you welcome them in and, you know, things start to unpack. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been cool. And then also like what happened that I didn't expect is like I've encouraged some people to start their own podcast just because they see me do it. You know, it's scary like to put yourself out there on the internet, like YouTube or when TikTok, whatever content they're making. So far, like 3 different podcasts that I know of, like they told me like, oh, 2 of them I helped them, and then like 3 of them told me they started because they saw me doing it. And I think that's pretty cool because it's like I didn't expect that to be a part of just doing a podcast.
And you know what's kind of interesting? I don't know if it was you or Alex.
Talk more to the mic a little bit.
It was you or Alex who had mentioned, because it's like a juxtaposition. I know you for a long time, and you're you're a kind of person that's very outgoing once you get comfortable with people and you start to relate and you push, buttons, and then it goes from there. But this is interesting because you just mentioned that starting a podcast can be scary and can be sometimes a lonely process. It can be something where you just have to grow and put yourself out there. So what is it that, even though sometimes it takes time for you to, open up and get the gears going, this wasn't the case with the podcast? Like, you actually had that drive to, I want to do this and put myself out there and put videos out there, and I don't know what's going to happen, but let's do it.
Yeah, it's weird because when I talk to somebody for the first time, I'm more conservative. Like, it's hard for me to talk to them. I'm cool with people, but then once I get to know them, then like, I talk more and open up. For podcasting is because some of the guests, either they reach out to me, I reach out to them, and you kind of like leading up to the podcast, you kind of do a little bit of research of what they do. They make music, or that's their business plan. What is it? Even if I've never met them, because it's the first time meeting them here in the podcast space. And then usually for the interviews, like the first 30 minutes is still kind of like, more reserved, like, especially for somebody that's never been on a podcast, like they don't, they feel like a little nervous.
A little tense, say the wrong thing.
It's always after 30 minutes, I always notice that after the first 30 minutes, the conversation just like feels more free and more like less tense. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that probably starts with the fact that you're easy to get along with. You just shoot something out. Hey, are you watching the game? Did you catch that rant from Kanye last night? Did you, are we going to jail tonight?
Yeah, bro, it's so cool. Like, I don't know, podcasting is dope because you're not creating content, because like other type of videos, like you got to record yourself, then edit stuff, and then post a video. This is just literally on the go, just whatever's the conversation you're having with. And curiosity is one of the things too. Is like I'm curious of like people's what their mindset is. I've had a lot of artists. I didn't expect to have that many like upcoming artists or local artists, because at first I was just like, I just want to talk to different people. I think my first like 10 episodes was mostly with friends or people that I knew, because I wanted to just get people involved. And then people started reaching out like, oh, I'm a local artist, I want to be in your podcast, or this and that. Or people would recommend people too. Someone who would watch the podcast like, oh, I got a friend who's doing this movie, and then you should hit him up to do a podcast. He's looking for promotion or something, and he's like a director, and I got to interview him. This other guy who was subscribed to my YouTube channel, so his name's Scott. He's from I think Ireland or Scotland or something. I don't know. He's subscribed to my YouTube channel for Coachella videos, and then he's like, oh, actually, I know one of the directors for Coachella. Like, I have his email. I'm gonna hit him up if you'd be interested to talk to him on the podcast. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. Wow. So then he hit him up. Pretty good. He gave me his email, and then we connected, and I had him on the podcast. Like, that was crazy, bro. Like, this has been he's been behind the video since Coachella 1999. Like, he did all the film in 1999 till 2020. And that was just random, just by making content online. Yeah,
and you're tied to Coachella Valley heavily, especially on the types of podcasts that you do and types of videos that you do and everything. So I feel like a lot of people in the Valley know you directly or indirectly as a result of the years that you've been putting in with this podcast, with your type of work that you do behind the lens. It's put you on a really good path, man. Like, you have been successful since the start. Again, there's been those ups and downs where you stepped away and you reignite that passion and you come back, and I mean, like you said, this was an unexpected journey. But
shout out Lord of the Rings and JR Token.
Yeah. So one thing before I wanted to ask you a couple other questions, but the third part was I know we digressed a little bit. What's something you're looking forward to?
Something I'm looking forward to in the podcast? Well, one, I guess it's like breaking news, or I don't know, I haven't announced it, but I guess I got to announce it. So at the end of this month, we might end up leaving the studio.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, the studio space.
For good reasons, bad reasons, neutral? It's okay if you can't say it.
I don't want to say the details yet, but yeah, so we're going to have to like relocate. I'm going to have to take like probably, I might not take a break, but it's going to be more, less production. like less of a studio. I'm gonna still do podcasts, but it's gonna be more maybe just like a little table in a corner or whatever until I find a new studio. I'm working on making a studio. I don't want to announce what it is yet because I have a couple options, but yeah, there's like 2 weeks left in the studio, and we've had it for like a year, a little bit over a year. So it took a while to get it the way it is, like the mural and all the equipment, the table, everything has been like little by little, but it's been cool. You know, I was able to have a studio. Moving forward, I learned what works and doesn't work because we rearranged this like so many times. We moved the couch here, the space, what kind of cameras, what kind of angles, lighting. We've had a lot of like try and error stuff. Now I know what I want for the next studio, but yeah, this is the 2 weeks left here.
Damn, I did not know that. 2 weeks left. Is it bittersweet or is it more sweet than bitter?
It's more sweet than bitter, to be honest, because like I said, it's just the opportunity that I got to. I wanted to open a studio before. I was looking to open a studio, and then the homie Eric from the food park, he's like, "Oh, I have a perfect room for you if you want." Because I told him, I'm like, "Oh, I'm about to." I was already looking to lease a studio right there in North India over there. And then he's like, "I got this perfect space. It'd be cool." And then it was perfect, you know, like the food park. Got to like do it whatever I wanted. The mural, fucking tile and granite and all kinds of other stuff. So it was pretty cool. So I like the experience, and I was able to produce a podcast for 2 other creators too. So right now, Valley Talk Radio, they do most like a sports podcast, and then Green School podcast, they do more interviews with like artists, and he's a local artist as well. So I'm producing for those 2 guys, and then so that came out of it too. The studio, which was one of the goals here, was to produce content for other people, because it's hard. Like when I started, like, you know, I had nothing. I was on my phone. I didn't even have a tripod. I was recording the phone with Armenta. Record like this and shit with the phone. And then
steady hands.
Well, not that steady. He's just all shaky. And then you would edit on the phone, you know. And then I got a laptop. Then I got a camera. You know, now I got like cameras and mics, and it's been like 5 years since I started YouTube. So a lot of people want to create content, but then they don't even know where to begin with, or how to edit, or what kind of mic to get. So it's like, if I can make a space where people come do their own shows, their own creativity, you know, provide that space for people. So that's one of the goals too. And I was able to do that, 2 different podcasts. I didn't want to do it in the beginning because of COVID, you know, like it was, I don't want to bring a lot of people in closed doors, but now that people got more comfortable, we kind of learned, you know, things happened. I was able to get those 2 shows running. So that was cool. That's something I want to keep doing, you know, providing space for people.
That's exciting. So production credits on the Green Scope and the Valley Talk Radio?
Valley Talk Radio. Green School.
Oh, Green School.
Yeah.
Okay,
Scope,
gotcha.
yeah.
I thought you said Scope.
Scope. Like fucking sniping podcast.
Yeah. That's good, man. So how does production credits differ from like the directive approach? I think that's one thing I've always wanted to understand is, do you have a hand in the creative process, or is this, they're kind of like, look, this is what we have for the vision of the podcast. If you can help us out in putting that together, that's what we're looking for. Or do they also ask for your creative input?
Yeah, sometimes they ask like, oh, whatever lighting do you think is good, or the setup or the angles. But usually I ask they, as far as the episode, they do whatever they want, you know. Some fools like to smoke weed like throughout the episode, and that's cool. Some other people, it's just different lightings. Like the Green Skull, he wants like he didn't want it, but he asked like, you want like to turn these lights green because it's the Green Skull podcast. I was like, give it a little tint of green, and he liked that idea, so he did an episode and it was like green. You guys will turn those like red lights into green. So just that, just lighting. And then I don't have a lot of room to change the set here, which is what I want to do at the next location. Is I want to have minimum 2, maybe 3 different kinds of sets.
That'd be exciting.
So that way people could choose different styles, or have a little more room to change the background, because right now, I mean, they can't really do nothing. So maybe like screens, or even a green screen. You could do a green screen. You could change the background, kind of like when Zoom meetings and shit.
That's exciting. Green screens would be good. I've never understood exactly how they work, but I mean, obviously, just have the green screen. I'm assuming something's projected or put onto it.
Yeah.
And whatever's, related to the podcast or the show could be put up there. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's gives it more of a personal feel, because here's everyone has the same background, which is still, it's about the content anyway, but I think they have more control too. They could put their own banners, logos, their flavor. That'd be pretty cool. So 100 episodes. So I expected to do 100 episodes faster than it happened. But whatever happened, I like the way everything turned out. I wouldn't change anything because the studio, everything just was pretty great.
That's good, man. If you can go back, let's say 2 years to when you were initially starting this, what would you say to yourself then that you know now?
Well, starting over, I think definitely work on audio first. Before is more important than video, especially for podcasts. It's a podcast, because there's video podcasts. There's some people that just put on video, but I just had one camera with the microphone for both people, so the audio was always muffled. Or when I did podcasts outdoors, that's still cool because it gives it like a different, like, oh cool, they're setting up anywhere. It's just you have the weather issues, but even if you had good mics, the weather doesn't affect it as much as just a camera. So I will put a camera here and it will record both of us. Then it's like the audio from my voice to your voice, it picks it up differently and it doesn't sound as good. So I think focusing on audio would have been something I, from the get-go, just focus on audio first. A good mic, and you could even just record with your phone, or you could just do audio only. You could post some video on YouTube, audio only as well. So if I could go back, would be just invest in a mic or see if I could get the audio the best from the beginning.
I think I've seen that before where they just do audio, and on the YouTube video of the podcast, they have almost like a screenwriting that just says that shows what they're saying. It's like the lyrics of the podcast. So that way, in case you're missing something, you can also read along. Instead of having any sort of video, it's just that. It's the lettering, like what we're talking about, it'll pop up.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of, I think of it like a music lyric video, but for a podcast.
Yeah.
So that way you're kind of reading along, listening. Sometimes people learn or pay attention better that way when they're reading along and someone's narrating,
You're focused. You're trying to keep up, like what are they saying? Yeah, I never really looked into that. I know there's some big podcasts that they don't even post on YouTube. Like they're strictly just in the audio form. Those popular podcasts, because there's different ways of podcasting. Because there's like shows, for example, you niche down. You're like those horror fucking stories about like people.
You said horror. I did not hear horror. I heard something else. Carry on. Did you see my face when you said that?
I knew you were gonna say some shit. Yeah.
Okay, horror. Okay, got it.
Yeah, like Halloween Horror Nights.
Halloween Horror Nights, got it. By Universal. Thank you, Universal.
Hey, Universal been putting out that content. Yeah, so some people like to do like those like murder mystery type of episodes where they talk about like those are super popular.
I've heard some of those.
There's like science podcasts based on certain things. There's interviews based podcasts, which is why I wanted to do interview, because I wanted to create connections with people. There's like sports podcasts, like specific, like just baseball. There's even like specific team podcasts, like a Chargers podcast, Dodgers podcast, or sometimes a baseball in general podcast, or UFC podcast. I mean, there's thousands of options, and I think podcasting is still early. So as compared to YouTube or all the other stuff, podcasting is still lags behind. I think it's going to continue to grow the next like 10, 15 years. So I think we're still early in the podcasting game.
And what could, like you said, it's very early in its, I want to say its development. It's been around for a while, but I think people are getting really creative in how they're utilizing podcasts is changing. And instead of making it just one dimensional, something that I just thought of right now is I wonder if they do podcasts where they like put out a question. Hey, what do you think, or who do you think has made a better run musically over their career? The Beatles or the Rolling Stones? And then the next podcast would be like a response to that from the audience. Like, oh, this audience member said this, let's unpack it. This audience member said that, let's unpack it. It's like a part one, the question, and a part two, the response or debate, And that's kind of cool because it gets more people involved and you have a chance to get your response heard and talk about what you said. So, again, it drives that input, that kind of, I want to listen in. I want to know if they are going to talk about what I said.
Yeah, I think people do that with podcast. I don't know if it's like a whole episode about it, but they definitely do that input. Like they'll do like a segment, like a 20-minute segment, and then the rest they're doing questions from the audience. And you interact with the audience. It's cool because then they're questions, and it gets you talking for 5 minutes, whatever question they put up. So I think that would be cool.
That's easy to do on like live radio because that happens all the time. But I feel like with podcasts, that's a little bit different because it's usually aimed to be, all right, this is what we're talking about, and that's it.
Yeah, well, it's if they're structured. So my podcasts are not structured; they're just like conversations. So I definitely want to do more input with the community because I've done podcasts where live streams you get more interaction because there's people watching live, and even people in the comments are talking to each other and like shit or like asking questions, and then you talk about them. And it's cool when like I've been on podcast or live streams of like other YouTubers or whatever, and then you ask a question and they read it in the show. I think it feels cool. Like, oh, cool, they're talking about whatever I wrote. So that's a cool option. I haven't really done that much on mine. Besides, when I first opened up the studio, I was doing podcasts with Mills and like Izzy, testing out the equipment because I was also learning how to use the Rodecaster interface, how to use that Add to Mini that switches the cameras back and forth. So it was like I was learning as I go too. So I feel more comfortable with the equipment now, the more you do it. So it's kind of something I want to do a little more moving forward.
That's good. And I'm assuming bigger equipment, different dense tools, things with more functions.
Yeah.
I'm sure that all comes as you grow.
Microphones. I have two of these. I had they're expensive, these two mics. So when I have like the other podcast, the Valley Talk, they usually have like 3 or 4 people. It's 3 of them that do it together for the sports podcast. But sometimes I have a 4th guest, and I have those other 2 small microphones right there. The one that's on the desk. They're not as high quality as these, but for now, I mean, they do. Those are my original podcasts.
Are those the Audio Technicas?
Yeah.
These are the Sures, right?
Sures, yeah.
Yeah, the Sures are, when it comes to audio quality, Sures got it. They got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, the Audio Technicas is the ones I've had for all the other podcasts we did when I was doing them on the go and stuff. They're more, they're not as expensive, but right now, in the future, I want to get 4 of these so guests could have that option. Good quality, especially if I'm producing for people. I gotta have the best quality for them. They deserve that. They deserve better.
Our people deserve better, man. They deserve consistency in their mic.
Have you ever considered starting a podcast or anything?
You know what? I have. I think at this point, my head's a little bit geared more towards getting back fully to my creative space with music. So I'm taking everything one step at a time. I think one thing that I did when I was younger is try to bite off more than I could chew. And sometimes it doesn't work out for the best because you're trying to push. Think of like having in front of you 10 quarters and each quarter representing something you're trying to improve at. And I'm trying to move everything up at once. And you don't really get much headroom done. So trying to focus on 1 or 2 things. Maybe a podcast about
music.
I don't know. Even like, I actually thought about not doing music, something to get me like a little bit more out of my comfort zone, like philosophy style questions. Like there's this book that I came across that's like 77 questions about philosophy, but in like modern times, like issues with abortion, religion, all this kind of stuff that really made me think. And if I were to ever do one, I think having a philosophy one would be kind of cool. It doesn't have to be crazy academic focus, just something simple like, what is the real issue with mask mandates and COVID-19 in the United States? Something simple like that,
Yeah.
And as complex
that's definitely not simple.
Yeah. You're going to get a bunch of different answers, a bunch of different input from all over the place. But, something less like, oh, what would Socrates have said about, this? No, make it something relatable, and start to get really uncover why people feel the way they feel about having masks, not having masks. It's just an example. So
that would be cool because it always keeps you challenged, like, and you're learning a lot more and you're thinking a lot more because some of those you would pick a topic and then just dive deep into the subject and really look at it from different perspectives. I think that would be pretty cool.
I think I would also use it as an opportunity to like let my guard down in the sense of we're all afraid to admit when we're wrong or when we don't see things in a certain light. So being more honest on that show or a podcast of like that caliber would be kind of good to be like, I never thought of it that way, or you make a good point, because I think too often we're afraid to do that and feel like we're allowing the other person to win the argument when the goal should be really to get closer to a truth, or at least get closer to understanding the other person's perspective. It shouldn't really necessarily be about winning.
Yeah, you shouldn't win. Well, I mean, it's like that's the whole point, is just to have a good conversation. So you would want to do like more with like other people, or not, or just by yourself? You want to have like conversations?
I think I would want to have other people on there, and what direction that could go and who would be on it. I mean, it's kind of up in the air. But
you have a equipment now, mics and stuff, or no?
My mics are geared more towards like DJ live performances and stuff, because that's what I mainly do. But I have a good idea of equipment to get to start, just to barely start off. And then obviously, come to you for like what you would recommend.
Because you could do like audio only. It would make it so much easier. You could start off audio only just to get consistent, and even doing episodes by yourself at first to just get started. It's not that difficult, because you know how to edit like music, you know how to change the levels and do all that. So I feel like you could definitely start something. Just kind of do little, it could be 10 minutes. So you don't have to do a whole hour, like just kind of like, so you get familiar with the process. And then once you get guests or whatever, then you could do a little more long form and just have those questions. And I know you know a lot of people, and especially in LA, bro, like you have all the creators are over there. So just look up online, anybody or people from college and people from your work that you could have on your podcast to start off, and then eventually professors, whatever, more intellectual people.
It's crazy that you mentioned that, because I've had some of the best conversations and best times with my professors. I even went to a professor's, I'm not going to say their name, I don't want to keep it confidential. I went to their home along with our class, and we hung out as like a last end of the year hoorah, because we were together fall, winter, and spring. It was kind of like a capstone sequence. And we played beer pong at this professor's house on the cliffs, like overlooking the university. And it was the end of my senior year. So for me to see that, wow, I can have some of the most impactful conversations I've ever had with anyone on stuff that matters in the world regarding like climate change, because that's what I studied. And then we're over here playing flip cup and playing beer pong at your house. So to me, that was like, these two worlds don't go together, and it was just really funny. And I've had some, again, beers with some other professors on our on-site school pub. We have a pub on campus. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. I met a lot of great people over the years. So we'll see.
You should. I feel like you should start it, bro. Like that sounds dope, because I know you've always talked about you have good relationships with some of your professors that I know you from previous conversations we've had, and you're very smart. You have your degree and everything that you've done is like, it's pretty cool. It's like the future. So
it'd be kind of cool too. Is I know sometimes, sorry, because you just like brought up something. I know we always get a lot of speculations about I don't know, different conspiracy theories. Oh, for instance, the jet stuff. You know how in the sky there's always those trails?
Yeah.
So one of my professors,
the chemtrails.
Yeah, the chemtrails. So one of my professors actually debunked that stuff in our class, and it was kind of cool, because it's one of those things that you see a lot of the times on the internet, and people try and make the case that this is what's happening. They're poisoning us and this and this and that. But then we actually unpacked it in class, and then I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense of why that is what it is. So that was the same professor I had some beers with. And he's a really smart guy in his field. So it'd be kind of cool to like, Professor, I know they say a lot of things about climate change or yada, yada, yada. You can just give like your input. We worked together in the past. Yeah. And I think it'd be giving more sense of like authenticity too. It's like, oh, I know that guy and he knows him. And he's an expert in, whatever.
Because like you already know these people, because you had them, you talked to them, you hung out with them outside of the class setting. So the conversation wouldn't be as like a more like reserved. Like you guys would open up and definitely debate. And then they're coming from an expertise field, they're professors at university. So I feel like those podcasts would be super engaging just because like, oh man, like you want to learn or find out what's going on, different topics, whatever they are. It could be the whole science stuff or philosophy. Because I'm pretty sure you could get into those philosophical questions with these professors and then their answers would be amazing because they're super professional, so I think you should start that. That sounds amazing.
And they're really laid back with like their answers. They're not like high and mighty. They're very sweet people that I've gotten to know. And again, that juxtaposition of when I was in the class, and these are some of the people that I look up to and like, wow, your works in like Nature magazine and all the major publishing scientific journals. And then I'm over here having an IPA with you and we're talking about the game that happened last night. So to see and go from one to the other, it was really exciting.
Having an IPA.
Yeah. Like, oh, I get to have fun with you and I have to turn in that paper tomorrow.
And he's just like, hey, Bryan, I'm not going to, hey, man, by the way, could give me a couple more weeks.
And then he'll be like, you know what? I know you're probably not going to finish your paper tonight. You'll turn it in next week. That'll be fine.
Hey, that'd be dope. Now, yeah, I think you should do something because I remember since you were in college, like you showed me all the books you were reading and shit. Like you were always like into philosophy. You had a lot of great books too. I think we talked about books. I don't know once. I don't remember.
Yeah, we did the Da Vinci Code. I was super nervous for that book review, man. And Hamilton pointed it out because I think he was the one that was more veteran on being in front of the camera and being behind the mic. And even till today, I get nervous, but I think it's definitely been more calm because I feel more comfortable and I'm just focusing on, again, having a conversation. Like if this wasn't here, Yeah, that Da Vinci Code book. I think that reviews might still be up.
Yeah, it should be on there. Yeah, we've done a few things. Definitely the Coachella review. Remember we reviewed Coachella 2018, I think it was.
Yeah. That's when we had those the Coachella hazy IPAs in the back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And then we reviewed Coachella 2019. Well, that was a podcast. But I remember the audio set because I had the
Is
camera.
that the wear sunscreen one? No,
No, I had
there was two.
Which one?
I'm sorry. I think I'm confusing because we did two Coachella videos. We did one where we were talking about that sunscreen joke, and then the other one was in my home by the pool. Do you remember the two?
Yeah. The sunscreen was the 2018, and then the one by the pool was 2019.
Got it.
Yeah, the 2019, the audio wasn't the best because I had the camera right next to your AC.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it sounded like muffled in the back, but that's what I'm talking about. Like the audio, I was focused more on video instead of focusing on audio, which is something we should have done more. Coachella 2022, we'll do a review whenever that happens, if it ever happens again.
Yeah. Are they doing the residential sale? Because if so, I'm probably going to need to get that ticket.
I'm not sure how they're doing because it's been, like I used to have my ticket so I bought my Coachella ticket summer 2019 for 2020. So I've had my ticket for like 2 years already. And I never got the refund. I just kept rolling it over, I guess.
Held on to it like a stock.
Yeah. It might be vintage, like that box that says 2020. That could be a vintage shit in the future. So they even sent me the box and the bracelet, but we haven't had Coachella in 2 years. So next year, I'm pretty sure they'll probably do a new bracelet. I don't think they'll reactivate these. I don't know. I exactly don't know, but they'll probably send a new box. And as far as like sales, they haven't really announced anything. They usually do more sales when the lineup drops because in January is going to be a new lineup. 2020, even though we wanted to roll over the same lineup as 2020, I want to say like 60% might be the same, but like 40% is going to change because artists, tours, things have happened in 2 years. Some artists like that were super small in the lineup, now they're bigger artists. Some of the artists that were on Coachella to promote a certain album has been their albums out for like 2 years. Maybe they don't want to do that anymore. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see what lineup they have now because like you said, different artists have different peaks at different times. And depending on who's most relative right now and who's really... Because it all comes down to numbers and pop appeal. At the end of the day, they're not going to obviously put on a show that no one's going to come to.
Yeah.
That's just like the matter of fact. And even though they have their niche pockets of artists that like, oh, I didn't think they would have them. they deliberately have them because they know that they're some of the best in their respective fields, whether that be alternative rock, alternative R&B, something that's a little bit more niche, like FKJ. If you ever listen to FKJ, he's like a multi-instrumentalist. Same thing with Grammatic. There's very niche pockets of music interest that still get exposed out there, which is great because everyone gets to go to something different.
Yeah, this was cool. One thing, Doja Cat, bro, she was like this small in the lineup, like really like towards the middle of the lineup. And then I saw this week she outstreamed Drake.
I saw that. I saw those numbers.
Like, damn, that's crazy. Like I don't know if she's number one, but she outstreamed Drake. And the 2 years since she was in the lineup, super small. Now when Coachella comes back, she's gonna have to be one of the not a main headliner, but at least like a 7 or 8 o'clock, like on the main stage or the outdoor stage or maybe the Sahara.
Definitely. I think the top 3 right now, it's, if I read it right, it was Justin Bieber, Ed Sheeran, and then it was The Weeknd. There was also other big names on there. But to see her surpassing Drake in monthly listeners, that's a pretty big feat, you know?
Yeah, she blew up a lot of songs on TikTok and all that stuff. You know what's not represented a lot on Coachella? We need like the Rancho Humilde foods on there. We need some fucking Fuerza Regida and Nata del Cano. Like, that'll be bad, bro. We need that. That's
like the corridos tumbados, right?
Yeah, like it's such a huge genre right now for like, in general, like some of their plays, they get a lot of freaking listeners. And because they all came out, it's like a new style of Mexican Americans. You know, it's like you have like Calibre 50 and you have like all those dudes they're like Mexican artists. But now this new wave is Rancho Humilde. It's all local, like US guys. So you have guys from Houston, you have guys from LA, Orange County, like all these dudes they grew up in the US, you know, and they're rapping, but like Spanglish and like a new style, like rap and norteño and all that shit. So they're super popular. And then it's like, why haven't they been at Coachella? 2019, that's when it was kind of blowing up. That's when I think that style blew up. 2020, they weren't on the lineup, but I'd be surprised if they don't have at least 1 or 2 artists coming to this one.
You know what's kind of funny too that you just mentioned with a lot of these collaborations of current modern artists taking a twist on like regional Mexican music, or whether it be norteño style, whether it be banda, whatever the music style is, and they're making it their own twist on it. Have you noticed that some of our generations kind of split where some like it, some really don't?
Yeah.
Kind of think about that, and then I think about how genres that are so popular now started out the same way, because at some point a generation was like, nah, you're taking the music that's beautiful and great and turning it into something that's not, which is, you know, based on perspective, whether you appreciate the art or not. And so think about all the genres that did that with traditional music, such as what happened when hip hop took funk and soul samples in the beginning. And those folks were like, what are you doing to, you know, the IZ brothers? You shouldn't be doing that and chopping up the beat and making, you know, what Notorious B.I.G. did, you know, with Big Papa. And he took a sample from the IZ brothers. And same thing with like reggaeton, taking essence of, you know, Panamanian and African roots and then blending that in and making something that's, you know, arguably the most popular genre right now globally. You know, reggaeton's up there. Yeah,
but even if you go back to rock, like the conservatives, they didn't want that, like the 80s rock when everything just turned wild and people were just the rock and roll, you know, like before it was more, even Elvis, bro, like people were complaining about Elvis like back in the 60s that he moved to his hips too much and shit.
yeah. Don't show your ankles, please.
So it's like, it's just a generational thing, you know, like when Elvis was coming up, the parents didn't like that kind of music. And then the generation is like, no, this is great, whatever. Then the next generation, you have the Led Zeppelins and all that, like it's changing, more aggressive and political during Vietnam. And then 80s was like cocaine and all that shit, fucking Axl Rose and shit.
Yeah, each like era captured something that was happening, not just musically, but socially. You know, that's what music does at its best. It captures, well, like when you think of Nirvana, 90s grunge, you think of a certain style of like dress, social atmosphere, and the music style. So like you said, everything happens. We start to become those same parents that are like, turn that down. That music's too loud.
I've been pretty open with like music. To be honest, I don't go out of my way to like discover new music as I get older. But if someone recommends something, like, oh, check out this artist or check out this, I do listen to it with like an open mind. And sometimes I do like some of the like new stuff that's coming up, or at least a few songs from like upcoming artists. But I don't know. I feel like I don't listen to shit unless someone recommends it, or I feel like I just listen to the same stuff over and over again. Like that's kind of happening.
Yeah, you can like fall into what I call like a musical trap where it's very comfortable, very easy to go back to what you already like, but it's much harder to put on something like, you know, a playlist on Apple Music or Spotify that continuously updates, and there's songs on there that you don't know by artists that you don't know.
Yeah.
And because that happens, you're more deterred and you go back to the stuff that you already know. It's kind of like if, you know, when you're dating, you know, you go back to La Tóxica because you know that shit, you know, rather than go out and try and make a new experience.
That's true. It's being in your comfort zone, you know, like even with music, maybe you don't want to waste that time. You know, I don't know who that is, and
I don't know if I'm going to like the song.
Yeah, no, it's we just have to be more open-minded. But yeah, going back to Coachella, like I'm excited just to see how it's going to be, because 2 years, you know, Coachella, they have to do something crazy, bro. Like they're like the premier music festival. We know the two headliners is Travis Scott and Rage Against the Machine, which is cool. We know who it's going to be. Both of those shows are going to be amazing. I want to see Travis Scott, bro. Like, oh my God.
You know, it'd be crazy if they swapped on each other's shows. No, that's not the right term. Like, let's say Travis dropped in on a Rage Against the Machine song, and vice versa. Rage Against the Machine did like a cover of, like, what if they did Butterfly Effect with Travis Scott? Oh, this life I cannot change. In the hills.
I feel like Travis would be down, but I don't know about like Rage Against the Machine. I feel like they wouldn't be down for that shit.
Didn't J Balvin do something with Metallica though recently?
Yeah. No, but I want to see Metallica at Coachella, bro. I've been saying that. They were rumored like 2016 and like 17 and 18. I don't know if it was Kirk Hammett or James Hetfield. One of them said that they wanted to play at Coachella because their daughter or their son was going to Coachella every year. They're like, oh, we want to go but they're like, oh, he got older, he doesn't go as much, so they don't want to go as much. But I feel like that's the only band that's like missing, because you've had all the iconic bands already perform there, except Metallica, which is the biggest rock band or the biggest hard rock band like in the world, so in history. I feel like they need to be there at least 1 year, man.
That's for sure. Did they come that year that they did? What was it? That show with the four?
The Big Four.
The Big Four.
They did perform at the festival or at the campgrounds, and that was actually Golden Voice's test. It was like a guinea pig. So it was like Coachella 2011, then it was the Big Four the weekend after, and then Stagecoach. So the whole thing was like they were trying to find a way to see if they could do two festivals back to back. So it was successful. So the 2012, they decided to do 2 weekends, because it was kind of like a test of like with the city planning and the hotels and the traffic, if they could do 3 weekends in a row actually. So they used that Big Four festival as a test, and then the year after they had 2 Coachellas. So that's pretty dope.
That is cool, because I remember it didn't always used to be 2 weekends, right? It used to just be one.
Yeah. 2011 was the last time it was 1 weekend. And before 2011, you actually buy single day passes too. And then 2011, they decided only 3-day passes, because what was happening was Sunday and Saturday would sell out, but sometimes Friday wasn't selling out, because Friday is hard for a lot of people because of work. You know, you can't take off the 3 days or travel issues or something. So now they needed to either sell out the whole thing or kind of make it more of a festival experience, like not just a concert. Like, I'm just gonna go on a Sunday and watch whoever. Now it's like, oh, you commit to the festival.
Yeah, you're locked in,
and you get that experience because it's amazing to go the 3 days. So I like what they did, and then they had such demand. Like the tickets in 2011 sold like this because one, it was the Strokes, which was like they don't really perform much. So the Strokes were on it. Then Kanye West was headlining, coming off My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Arcade Fire, Kings of Leon.
A lot of good acts.
David Guetta was there. I don't know if Avicii was 2012 or 2011. I think it's 2012.
Yeah,
I missed the Avicii one. I missed Avicii because fucking they performed the same time as fucking Tupac or Dr. Dre. So I didn't go see it.
Yeah. Avicii, I remember that. He did play at the same time as Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. And that, I think, to date is still the most, I don't know if it's called the most watched or the most showed at performance in the Coachella's history. I think it has the biggest audience at Coachella.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
The one that really stood out was... well, Beyonce, I don't know. I feel like Beyonce probably had more guests, more viewers. Are you talking about the Dr. Dre?
Yeah, I thought maybe Beyonce broke it. I thought Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, the year that they headlined in 2012, had the biggest turnout.
They had a big turnout, but because of it, the festival got bigger in 2018. They bought more land, so that's why they moved the Sahara tent over here, because they bought more, not bought more land, or they leased more land.
Oh, available space for
yeah. So the festival grew so they could bring more people, and then they added like an extra. They added the Sonora stage, and then they added they made the outdoor theater. So the outdoor theater now it was the size of the old Coachella main stage. So in like 2012, 2011, the size of that stage, that was like the main stage, and the outdoor theater was big, but it wasn't that big. And now since they moved it, they expanded it a little further. The size of the freaking outdoor theater now was the size, and now the main stage is huge, like with the giant panel screens and then just like the whole really freaking big field. So, and then the Sahara, they made it bigger too. I'm still not a big fan of the sideways thing. I loved when it was like a regular tent back in the day.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because instead of making it, what is it called? Long ways vertical, the way we see the stage.
Yeah.
It's horizontal now, right?
It's horizontal. But it does look cool if you're on the right side, because we were there for Kanye or Wiz Khalifa, I forgot who we're watching. So if you're on the right side, like the stage is right here, the festival's here, and then you're over here, you see the stage and the performers. And then on the far, you see the Ferris wheel, and then you see like the sphere. Nice. So it looks cool. Like it's a cool view of like a shitload of people, and then like the structures like lighted up, and it kind of makes it a cool look if you go on the right side. But yeah, I mean that's kind of like already almost like another main stage. You know, Sahara was always more EDM, and now they incorporate a lot of hip hop and stuff.
Yeah, the biggest artists are always either at the outdoor, the main stage, or Sahara, almost 90% of the time.
Yeah, my favorite. I feel like I spend more time at the Sahara than all the other ones. I feel like they made it really hip hop and EDM heavy. I think it's only hip hop and EDM at the Sahara.
Yeah, I remember. I think Post Malone performed there. YG was there. There was a handful of artists where it went from EDM to like, oh, now it's the equivalent of the outdoor and the main stage, but on this end.
I think I read somewhere, I don't know, it was Paul Tolet or somebody from Golden Voice, were saying the reason they moved away from only EDM at the Sahara was to encourage people to walk around, like to explore the festival. Because when it was only EDM, Leo and other people, like Leo, he would only go to Sahara. He wouldn't even care about, he was just, I'm going to be in the Sahara the whole day, 12 hours just raging. And I think people are just either passing out, dehydrated, just too much, like humidity. I think they realized like we got to move some EDM somewhere else, so like these people could walk around and explore the festival, buy more stuff, or just like loosen up, you know, instead of just standing in one spot forever. You know, it's like probably dangerous. I don't know. That's one of the things they said. They want to kind of diversify everything so people could go to every stage and every little thing.
I think that's a smart play. Keeps you on your toes. You don't know if you're going to be at a certain area the whole day. And I'm pretty sure that drives, like you said, more traffic, and people aren't stuck in certain areas.
Yeah, just stuck in one place. The only thing that sucks is that walk from the main stage to the Sahara. Man, it's so long because there's so many people.
That's for damn sure.
That's like a mile freaking walk in between like hundreds of thousands of people and shit. You just like trying to get there. And then the one that kind of struggled in the last Coachella was the Heineken tent or whatever, the Heineken beer garden. I feel like nobody was there. I remember every time I passed by, that shit was empty, because before they had it close to the Sahara tent. It was like really close to it, so people would stop by. But now they put it like in the corner of the festival, where like unless you're actually going there for like a DJ or something, no one's really stopping by. So that's one thing that kind of been struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Dulab has actually been a success, and so is the Yuma tent. The Yuma tent's been holding its own, and it's like the first one that you see when you come in, and you just hear this pounding music, like, oh, the festival sounds crazy. Like, that's just the Yuma tent, you know?
I like when you're checking in, and you hear the bass in the background. Like, you really can't hear the song, but you just hear.
Yeah, you hear the low end,
and then you hear like crowds like cheering after a song. Like that feeling, like that's my favorite. Like right before you go into the festival.
Yeah, that anticipation. You hear everyone chanting.
Yeah, that shit's bad. The Yuma, I haven't really spent a lot of time in the Yuma, to be honest. I don't know, for some reason, I feel like I've only seen like one artist there, and the rest of the time I'm like exploring different stages. But I know people too, just on Reddit, like people say they spend a lot of time in the Yuma, like they don't care about all these mainstream artists. They're just like in the Yuma listening to like small DJs and shit. I don't know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the Dulab and the Yuma tent, they definitely appeal to like niche underground music more, and just artists that usually aren't on top of like the main headlines, you know, but they still make really good music.
It's crazy how Coachella, like the diversity of the crowd, like there's people that don't care about like Travis Scott or Kanye or like Beyonce, like, or the people that went to see Avicii instead of like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and you were thinking, you know, like for me, I always want to see the headliner, no matter what, just because it's like, I think it's a big deal. Even though by Sunday night I'm super tired, I'm just like, oh man, I'm exhausted. I'm just like watching from the side, and I'm not going too crazy. But I always feel like I have to see the headliner, because I'm never gonna, for the most part, never gonna see them again, like at a concert. You know, like Ariana Grande, I'm not gonna pay $500 for her tickets because her tickets are crazy. But if she's at Coachella, I'll watch her. Or like Lady Gaga, I'll watch her at Coachella. But then there's people at Coachella that don't care about that. They're like, nah, I'll stay at the Yuma. Fuck these mainstreams.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't appeal to some. I couldn't tell you that I listen to Taylor Swift or Justin Bieber on the regular, and that's because I don't think they make good music. They have some good features that I've listened to. It's just like not my not something I listen to on the regular. But you know, like you said, you know, you see them that they're headliners, so you go check it out. It's like, you know, they're there for a reason. They're headlining for a reason. Yeah,
it's that's what's cool about Coachella. Just so much diversity. You never get bored because there's always something to do. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Well, 2022, we'll have a good time. So anyway, the Chargers.
The Chargers. What time is it?
I think the game's already on.
Oh yeah, you're right. 10:23.
So the Chargers, bro, like they haven't been good since they've been okay for the last 10 years with Phillip Rivers. You know, like we had some playoff wins, some decent teams, a lot of terrible losses. They always lose somehow.
Many.
But now it's like, it feels like it's like back to 2008, 2009 with LT and Sean Merriman and all that shit. So I'm excited. I feel like the Chargers are back.
Yeah, the offensive line's been getting a lot of help. So is the defensive line. We got that new running back. New to me. I feel like
Austin Eckler.
Yeah. And then there's been more consistency. I think that's the big thing too. Remember we used to get a lot of shit because we used to be called the Char because we could never finish the second half, you know. And that's what always used to happen historically. Something always happens where we're up going into the half, and then somehow in the third and fourth quarter we just let it drop. They start to push through the offensive line. We're causing turnovers and interceptions, and right now it's looking promising, you know.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Justin Herbert, I mean, that dude's a beast. Like, he's breaking all kinds of records. He's gonna be around for like 10, 15 years. So that's badass. Like, we have a quarterback. We didn't have the quarterback purgatory that all these teams have. Like, the Dolphins haven't found a quarterback in like since Dan Marino. The Jets haven't had a quarterback in like 20, 30 years. The Broncos, they had Peyton Manning for those like 3-4 years. But before and after Peyton Manning, they haven't had a quarterback. The Raiders haven't had a... Derek Carr's decent, but it's just like, it's hard to find that one franchise guy. And to go from Phillip Rivers, who's super consistent, keep us in games even though our roster sucked, to this guy who's he's going to keep us in games and probably better than Phillip Rivers because this could actually run. Phillip Rivers is all fucking slow and shit. But no, it's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, he's... From the last two games that I saw, especially when they were against Kansas City, and then they were against the Raiders, and then they against the Browns. even as the Browns was like what, a 48-45 game.
Yeah, it was a crazy scoring game. That was a crazy game.
So I think the fact that they keep pushing, especially on the offense, they're not letting go of the gas pedal, especially on the teams that like really giving it to them, is going to be super important for, I think, the longevity, especially of Herbert and the success of like their offense this season.
Yeah. We should go to a game. You know which game I want to go to? It's Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs, bro, in December.
I'd be down for that.
December like 16. Thursday Night Football, so the game's at 5:30, so we could get hammered. And it's around the holidays, so it's not, work shouldn't be too crazy because it's right before Christmas. So, and it's a Thursday night, and it's against the Chiefs, who are like pretty good team. So that'd be bad, bro. We should go to that one. That'd
be definitely down. That's again another repeat of the quarterback duel, Mahomes versus Herbert.
That'd be a fun game to watch live. That one,
I haven't been to the SoFi Stadium.
Have you? No, not yet. That's why I was thinking of getting season tickets, but I didn't commit myself to it because it's such a hard going to fucking 8 games.
That is tough.
It's tough. Like just for you it's probably easier because you live closer. But like driving 2 hours, fucking doing all that, and then the next day I have to work and the travel. Because it sounds really hard. But eventually I'll get season tickets. But for now, I definitely want to go to that one. There's another one that's really good on the schedule is Sunday Night Football against Steelers.
Oh, I remember. I heard that game was like really pricey. It was like $200 just for
the cheapest ticket.
Yeah, and I didn't know that the Steelers,
they have a huge fan base.
Yeah,
the Steelers have a huge fan base. That's why they're expensive. So depending on the fan base, that's why the tickets are expensive, and that's why the Chargers don't have fans. So the reason why there's a lot of like when we play another team and they have a lot of fans in our stadium is because the tickets are so expensive. So, for example, the Steelers or the Cowboys, whatever. As a Charger fan, we're buying tickets $100. You know, like we have options to go to 8 different games. You know, that one's too expensive. I'll go to the next one. But if you're a Steelers fan, you play the Chargers maybe once every 3 or 4 years, and you live in California, you're going to spend those $300 a ticket. And it's not going to be hard for you because it's like you get that chance once in 3-4 years. If you're a Green Bay Packers fan and they're playing here, you live in this side, you live in Arizona, you're retired, you live in Arizona, you're going to spend those $300-$400 a ticket. So it marks up the prices. So if you're a Chargers fan, you're like, I don't want to spend $400 to that game. Even though I want to go, I'll spend the $100 to go to the Browns game. So the Browns game had more Charger fans because it was way cheaper. The tickets were like $70.
That makes a lot of sense. You know what?
It's hard to spend that money especially if you live here where everything's so expensive.
Hell yeah, man. That's one thing for sure. California is extremely expensive to live in. Now you just reminded me that also happens in baseball. You know, when the Dodgers, they rarely do, but when they do, it's expensive. Dodgers versus the Yankees. That game, if you're watching it at a Dodger Stadium, man, that thing's just because it's an East Coast, West Coast, and because they rarely play each other, their schedules rarely go head to head. It's always an expensive game.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot of Yankee fans.
Yeah, there's a lot of Yankee fans because I feel just New York and LA, I feel like they're similar when it comes to lifestyle and people who like, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of families that live either on one coast or the other. Yeah. And I personally know a lot of Yankee fans as well as a lot of Dodger fans. So it's really interesting that on the West Coast, I find sometimes as many Yankee fans because
you used to be a Yankee fan when you were a kid too.
Like even to this day because I mean obviously I grew up in LA, so you know Dodgers for life, but Yankees is like one of those teams when I would equate them to Brazil soccer. You know, they were just one of those things that they've been a highlight of the sport. They're like the top tier. They always put a good product. Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those teams that you just respect because they're always putting out quality, sports players.
History, everything.
There's so much history tied behind. Like when you think of soccer, you can think of Brazil, you can think of Spain.
When you think of baseball, you think the Yankees number one.
Exactly. So it's like more of a respect thing. When you think about basketball, you think about some teams like the Lakers, you think about Boston Celtics, think about the Bulls, you think about some of the teams that have made historical impacts on the game. So I think that's why I always say like you can be a fan of multiple teams. Don't jump from team to team because then no one's gonna think you're a consistent fan. But
yeah, like there's not a problem because you have your main team, And then there's another team that you might like, oh, that team's cool. Like for me, I like the Seahawks. I don't root for them, but if they're playing, I usually the Seahawks. I like them. I like the Russell Wilson and all that shit. But I'm a Chargers fan, and there's definitely for soccer, like I'm a team. I like Mexico, but like if the team, I mean, I like Germany or just because the same thing. Like they always have like the history, and they're always like there. I like to like when Portugal's playing because Ronaldo. I like to root for them. Oh, cool, Ronaldo's playing. But yeah, it's interesting. Just here in Southern California, you have those fan bases. So many people here that move from those states that come retired to this nice place that want to go to these games. So that's one of the things. And as long as you're winning in LA, you'll get fans. That's just number one thing too. So I think the Chargers. Another thing is like you got to look at it as the next like 100 years. The NFL hasn't even been around for 100 years. The Chargers, they were in San Diego. The Raiders were here for 20 years, in the 90s, and then they were adopted by all the hip hop people. Like that's why there's a lot of Raider fans. They were winning in the 80s, and then you had all the gangsters and shit wearing Raider gear because it's cool, the black and the silver. Now the next 100 years of the Chargers, the next 10 years, if the Chargers consistently win, maybe they win a Super Bowl or two, that's going to create a lot more generation of fans for the next 30, 40 years. Like I always think like in 30, 40 years, you'll have LA will probably have a shitload of Chargers fans compared to what it is now. It's just because as a kid too, if you see success, so a lot of kids right now, they see Herbert just slinging it. They're going to say, oh, I'm a fan of the Chargers. They're fun to watch. Their uniforms look cool. Then they get older. Then the more they win, more people are going to start buying the gear, more support. It's just, you have to win. If you're in LA, you have to win. It's just, that's it. You can't not win.
Yeah, it's a city with a lot of championships. Anything from even the college stuff from UCLA, USC.
Yeah,
basketball. Soccer still needs to catch up, but it's there. Like Los Angeles, a city of championships, and like you said, you have to win if you're in LA because
there's so much to do.
Yeah, and there's so much riding on it too. I think one of the posts that I saw on social media from the Dodgers put it best. It said, if you're gonna say beat LA, what they say at the Giants games, you better beat LA, because that's what they didn't do, and that's how we win the championship series now. And we'll see how today goes. We lost yesterday, but
should be
second
good.
game today. They got their heart of their pitchers coming up.
Okay, so I think this pretty much wraps up the episode. We gotta go watch the Chargers. Bryan, thank you for joining me in the podcast, and can't wait to hear your podcast.
Thanks, man. It's always a pleasure being here. And here's to another 100 episodes, man.
Hell yeah, we're gonna keep going 1,000. We're gonna do 1,000 episodes before you know it, so it should be a good one. All right, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.
Deuces. Thank y'all.